I've been trying to get my video about David Pakman pretending like he doesn't know how to pronounce APAC to upload on TikTok for the last 25 minutes, and it keeps stalling out at 96% and won't finish uploading. So while I'm waiting, since I have this opportunity, I want to talk about what the Trump regime wants to do to Gaza. Now, you may have heard there was a story that broke from the Washington Post, 3 or 4 days ago about the Gaza Riviera. And we've heard Trump talking about this for quite a while now. Since at least February of this year, but maybe earlier. You may recall he said this in a news conference in early February. By the way, watch him in this news conference. It's obvious, at least to me, how much he has declined between February and now.
I think you'll make that into an international, unbelievable place. I think the potential in the Gaza Strip is unbelievable. And I think the entire world, representatives from all over the world will be there, and they'll live there. Palestinians also. Palestinians will live there. Many people will live there. But they've tried the other, and they've tried it for decades and decades and decades. It's not going to work. It didn't work. It will never work. And you have to learn from history. History has, you just can't let it keep repeating itself. We have an opportunity to do something that could be phenomenal. And I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent. But more importantly than that is the people that have been absolutely destroyed that live there now can live in peace in a much better situation, because they're living in hell. And those people will now be able to live in peace. We'll make sure that it's done world class. It'll be wonderful for the people. Palestinians mostly we're talking about. And I have a feeling that despite them saying no, I have a feeling that the king in Jordan and that the general president, but that the general in Egypt will open their hearts and will give us the kind of land that we need to get this done.
Right, all of that rambling nonsense. Again, do you see how much he's declined since February? But that's when he was really starting to talk up this Gaza Riviera. And of course, he had a bunch of bullshit there about how Palestinians will be able to live in peace and how they're living in hell now. They're living in hell now because of Israel and the genocide that they're committing, and how the United States government, with the help of both Republican and Democratic elected officials, has been funding that for a long time. We've been funding the apartheid state of Israel for a long time and intentionally inflicting suffering on the people of Palestine. I just talked about some reporting from The Guardian from the end of July about how Israel has been intentionally rationing the calories of the Palestinian people since at least 2006, calling it the Palestinian diet. And then notice at the end of that clip, Trump was like, oh, well, we're hoping that the king of Jordan will let the people of Palestine go there. By the way, I don't want to get too much ahead of myself, but 2 or 3 days ago, the Trump regime announced, kind of on the down low, that they were no longer going to be giving any visas to Palestinians. And as we are getting more and more information leaked about this Gaza Riviera plan, it's very telling. It's very telling how they want to push everybody out of Gaza, and they definitely don't want to let any of those folks into the United States. No refugee status, no visas for Palestinians coming into the U.S. But before I get into that most recent reporting, I just want to remind you that on Donald Trump's Truth Social back in February, he also posted this AI-generated video, which myself and a number of other people talked about back then, about how absolutely horrifying it was, and I was shocked to see how little traction that it got in the press.
Donald is coming to set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, number one. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, number one.
I don't really know why more people weren't horrified about that. Of course, billionaires would think the idea of a good future for people is like luxury, I don't know, living for the super rich who want a vacation there and everybody else made to work for them. Definitely not sovereignty and self-determination for a people in their homeland. So a couple of days ago, the Washington Post broke a story. I think the Financial Times originally leaked a little bit of it, but then it really broke in the Washington Post about how, despite the fact that back in February, Donald Trump was claiming his Riviera plans for his gold-plated, gaudy, gilded plans with huge statues of himself and Elon Musk stuffing his face and like beach resorts in Gaza would be better for Palestinians and they would know peace there. The actual plan is to encourage voluntary relocation of all Palestinians, to move all Palestinians out of Gaza, to force them out of their homeland. But they're claiming they want to do it with like $5,000 payments. Definitely won't be the fact that they're being starved, and facing a genocide, but also no plan for where they're going to go. Just kick them out so they can build the Gaza Riviera. So the full plan from the Trump regime, which is like a 38-page document, was disclosed by the Washington Post a few days ago. And I don't give my money to the Washington Post. So I'm definitely using a secondary source here, which is CNBC and also The Guardian. So according to The Guardian, the leaked Gaza Riviera plan has been pretty resoundingly dismissed as a, quote, insane attempt to cover up an ethnic cleansing. The 38-page prospectus proposes forced displacement of an entire population and would put all of the Gaza Strip into U.S. trusteeship. It's been named the Gaza Reconstitution Economic Acceleration and Transformation Trust, or GREAT. The proposal was reportedly developed by some of the same Israelis who created and set in motion the U.S. and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The GHF is responsible for accelerating the hunger crisis in Gaza into an outright famine, reducing hundreds of food distribution sites run by NGOs down to 4 drop sites overseen by the IOF and American contractors, creating a fish in a barrel scenario where families in Palestine go to pick up food and they are shot to death, and where more and more people starve every day. It bears repeating nonstop. A famine is a man-made construct. It is an intentional act of war. It is a human rights violation. It is not a natural disaster. It is not something that happens by accident. It is intentionally done. It is intentional starvation. Right, so despite back in February, Trump saying that Palestinians could stay in Palestine, even though, again, at the end of his news conference, he was like, oh, maybe some other countries in the Middle East will take all of them. Now the plan outright says that it would require relocation of all of Gaza's more than 2 million people to other places. Y'all, that's an ethnic cleansing. Any Palestinians who stay in Gaza would be forced into tiny little properties that are 323 square feet. That way they can clear all of the land for development of luxury condos and resorts. Right? Because everything that Donald Trump does is a grift. Everything he does is about making it easier for the billionaires to exploit everybody else. They want to live in obscene luxury, vacation, be entertained, experience a life full of pleasure while they exploit all of us. While they literally kill people so they can have resort destinations, while they steal people's homelands, commit ethnic cleansings so that they can party it up, while they traffic and assault women and girls in Jeffrey Epstein's apartment and on Epstein Island. This is what billionaires are, y'all. This is what they do. A whole bunch of construction companies think that they're going to get real rich building this resort location. All kinds of people think they're going to do a big capitalism. The super rich think they're going to get a luxury vacation site. And according to human rights groups, this is a blueprint for mass deportation marketed as development. The outcome is a textbook case of international crimes on an unimaginable scale. Forced population transfer, demographic engineering, and collective punishment. We should all obviously find this abhorrent, but we also need to recognize that this is just capitalism. This is what capitalism does. People who are hoping to get real rich off of the suffering of others. People who are hoping to expand their own profit, their own comfort, their own wealth, to live high on the hog, to experience all of the pleasures of life off of the suffering and death of the rest of us. These are grifters trying to make a profit off of an ethnic cleansing. The same thing that ICE is doing in the United States. Private corporations, publicly traded corporations who want to make a buck off of the suffering of other people. Y'all, there truly is no war but the class war. What they want to do in Gaza is business as usual, just ramped up to a more overt and grander scale. We should be horrified, but we also should understand that this is what capitalism is. This is what people will do for profit.